At the edge of the Arizona desert, where rows of agave stand tall like defiant warriors against the parched earth, agave farms rose solemn and timeless, a monument carved from silence and sun. The wind whispered through weathered wooden shutters, carrying the scent of secrets buried beneath time, memories of pain endured and dreams left behind. It was here that Evelyn Reyes arrived for the first time, a young woman with deep green eyes and torn shoes, each step echoing an untold chapter of hardship. She had once been a second-year music student at a small conservatory in New Mexico, but when her mother, Lucia Reyes, was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Evelyn left school behind and took on whatever work she could find, cleaning houses, waiting tables, and scrubbing hotel bathrooms, just to pay for chemotherapy. The medical bills kept rising, and her mother's strength kept fading. When Evelyn saw the job posting for a live-in housekeeper at Agave Farms, she didn't hesitate. It was far from the city, the pay modest, but meals and lodging were included. She packed what little she had into an old canvas bag, a few outfits and an aging notebook of sheet music, the last keepsake of her grandmother, who had once been a piano teacher. Agave Farms didn't welcome Evelyn with warmth. Nathaniel Walker, the estate's owner, was a man carved from solitude. Wealthy, powerful, and distant, his gaze seemed to be searching for something long lost. They said his heart had turned to stone the day his wife left, taking their young daughter with her. And so fate placed Evelyn between those cold stone walls, like a stray note in a melody that had long forgotten how to sing. She didn't know it yet, but with her calloused hands and a heart that never stopped dreaming, she was about to shake the foundation of a world frozen in time. From the moment Evelyn stepped through the rusted iron gates of Agave Farms, she knew this place wasn't built for someone like her. The whispers started the second she entered the kitchen in her faded cotton dress and worn-out shoes. Beatrice, the longtime housekeeper, looked her over as if she were a stain on the spotless tiled floor. "You really think you'll work here with those shoes?" Her voice dripped with contempt, prompting stifled laughter from the two other maids, Sierra and Monica. Evelyn lowered her gaze, her cheeks flushed, but her voice remained calm. "I need this job. I know how to work hard." No one knew that before arriving, she had walked over 3 kilometers from the bus stop, hiding blisters beneath torn socks. Her mother, bedridden with cancer, waited for every cent Evelyn could send to keep her treatments going. Beatrice finally relented. "You've got 1 week. Your room's at the end of the service wing. And remember, stay out of the main quarters. This is Mr. Nathaniel Walker's estate, not a rescue shelter." The first days were punishment. Evelyn was given the heaviest tasks, scrubbing floors, hauling water from the well, mucking out the stables. Sierra and Monica never missed a chance to mock her. "Careful there, little pianist," Sierra smirked, deliberately spilling the bucket Evelyn had just filled. Her hands blistered, her back ached, but she never complained. She hadn't come here for pity. Among all the fatigue, there was one place that stirred something in her, the grand living room, where an old piano stood. Every time she passed it, Evelyn would silently touch a key as if reaching for a past life, one filled with lullabies, her grandmother's voice, and the dreams she once dared to dream. Something inside her was still alive, and if the world hadn't heard her voice yet, maybe, just maybe, it would hear her play. 1 month after Evelyn arrived at Agave Farms, the estate buzzed with anticipation. It was time for the annual fundraising gala, the biggest event of the year, where Arizona's elite gathered. Investors, politicians, artists, and philanthropists. Beatrice paced the grounds like a battle commander, inspecting every detail from tablecloths to lighting. "Everything must be perfect," she barked if anything was even slightly out of place. Evelyn kept to her quiet duties, wiping tables, arranging chairs, mopping floors, just like every other day. But that night, fate had its own plans. Moments before the event began, a phone call threw the entire staff into chaos. The professional pianist from Phoenix had been in a minor car accident, nothing serious, but she wouldn't make it in time. Panic spread. "Mr. Walker will lose his mind," Beatrice muttered. Evelyn, standing nearby clutching a mop handle, heard every word. Her heart pounded. She knew she could do it. She had memorized those pieces long ago. Every note etched into her soul. After a moment of hesitation, she stepped forward. I can play." Silence fell. Sierra let out a loud laugh. Her? In that kitchen rag and busted shoes? But Nathaniel, standing at a distance, had heard. He walked toward her, his gaze steady and unreadable. "You can play?" he asked, voice low and rough. "Yes, sir," she said softly. "I was trained since I was a child." Beatrice opened her mouth to object, but Nathaniel raised a hand. "Let her." Evelyn sat at the grand piano in the center of the ballroom. Around her, elegant women clutched champagne flutes. Polished men adjusted their ties. Everyone watching, ready to dismiss her. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. Her fingers touched the keys, and the opening of Clair de Lune spilled into the air like water over desert stone. Each note trembled with memory, with longing, not just precision, but pain and grace, and a yearning so old it could only be music. When she struck the final chord, the room stood still, frozen in reverence, before erupting into thunderous applause that echoed through the cold stone walls. And at the back of the room, Nathaniel Walker did not clap. He just stood, watching her, as if he had just witnessed something he had never dared to believe could be real. After the night of the fundraiser, everything changed. Evelyn was no longer the girl with the mop and broken shoes. The staff stopped mocking her. Even Beatrice held her tongue. But it was the change in Nathaniel Walker that truly shifted the air. He began inviting Evelyn to the library every afternoon under the pretense of discussing music for upcoming events. Yet within those dust-covered rooms and the warm glow of desk lamps, they talked more about life than logistics. One afternoon, as Evelyn played a quiet melody on the old piano in his study, Nathaniel asked softly, "Where did you learn to play?" She offered a small, bittersweet smile. "I never went to school. My grandmother taught me when I was 5. She played piano in an old theater in Tucson." Nathaniel nodded, reflective. "And now you scrub floors here." "Life doesn't always go the way we plan," she replied, eyes fixed on the keys. Silence settled between them. Then he said, "I used to write novels before everything fell apart. Now the words are gone." It was the first time Evelyn saw not the powerful landowner, but a lonely man, one carrying stories no one had ever heard. And for the first time, Nathaniel looked at her not as an employee, but as a kindred spirit. The next day, he asked her to take on the role of resident musician, responsible for curating music for upcoming cultural events. "I want someone whose heart understands music, not just their hands." Evelyn hesitated. "What about my cleaning duties?" Nathaniel smiled. "I think you've already outgrown everything a mop can hold you to." And in that brief moment, Evelyn realized that what once seemed like the end might just be the first page of a new chapter, one where music once again had a voice. Not long after Evelyn took on her new role, Nathaniel's past came knocking, without warning, without mercy. A sleek black SUV pulled up at the front gates of Agave Farms. Stepping out was a stunning woman, poised and confident, her eyes cold as steel. Lena Carlisle, Nathaniel's ex-wife. "I'm here to talk about Juliana," she said with a tight smile and an even tighter tone. "She misses her father." Evelyn stood behind the window pane, her heart tightening. Nathaniel had never hidden the fact he had a daughter, but Lena's presence, once the lady of the estate, made Evelyn feel small, like a guest in her own life. From the moment Lena arrived, tension blanketed the farm. Music sessions between Evelyn and Nathaniel grew scarce. Whenever Lena was near, he seemed distant, clouded, his thoughts miles away. One afternoon, as Evelyn played Chopin's Nocturne, Nathaniel abruptly interrupted. "It needs more emotion." That sounded like a typewriter. Her hands froze above the keys. "Maybe you should ask your ex-wife to play it. I'm sure she's more expressive." Silence. "Lena's not my wife anymore," he said softly. "We divorced 2 years ago." She's here because Juliana needs an expensive surgery. Evelyn flushed, guilt washing over her. She'd never meant to doubt what they were building. That evening, during rehearsal, Lena waltzed into the music room. Her smile was poised, but her words sharp. "So this is the talented musician you've been praising?" "I thought she worked laundry." Evelyn rose, her voice unwavering. "I'm Evelyn Reyes, and yes, I used to clean bathrooms here, but that doesn't make me any less of an artist." Lena smirked. "Nathaniel always did have a soft spot for charity cases." "Enough, Lena," Nathaniel cut in, his tone like steel. The next night, when Evelyn returned to the music room, she froze. Several piano strings had been deliberately cut. Nearby stood Sierra and Monica, their innocent faces unconvincing. "Maybe the wind knocked something over," Monica muttered. Evelyn said nothing. She simply sat, head bowed, silence ringing louder than any note. The next morning, Nathaniel gathered the entire staff. "Anyone who interferes with Ms. Reyes's work will be dismissed immediately." Then he turned to Evelyn, his voice clear, his gaze steady. "She is an invited artist in this home. If you don't respect her, you don't respect me." Everything seemed to be falling into place, until Evelyn found an anonymous envelope left atop the grand piano one early morning. Inside were photographs, her entering a rundown motel in Tucson, envelope of cash in hand, beside an older man. No captions, no context, just images crafted to tell the wrong story. Her heart sank. The man was Donaciano, an antique dealer. Months ago, she had sold her grandmother's old engagement ring to pay for her mother's treatment. He had insisted they meet at that motel for security reasons. When Nathaniel saw the photos, his expression shifted. Confusion, then disbelief, then something colder. He didn't speak, just silence, and his eyes suddenly distant, like a door had quietly shut. "What do you think I am?" Evelyn asked, her voice breaking. "Someone using you for a place to sleep?" Nathaniel turned away. "I don't know what to think anymore." The words cut deeper than any insult. Evelyn packed her things and wrote a quiet goodbye letter. She planned to leave Agave Farms without a scene. But as she stepped into the hallway, she found Juliana, Nathaniel's daughter, waiting. "You're not leaving, right?" the little girl asked, clutching Evelyn's hand. "Dad smiles more when you're here. You play like the stories Grandma used to tell." Evelyn pulled her into a hug, tears falling freely. That small voice cracked something open inside her. Maybe it wasn't time to give up. That afternoon, she walked into Nathaniel's study, hands trembling as she held one of the photos. "You should have asked me," she said, "but I'll still answer. That man bought my grandmother's ring. I needed the money for hospital bills." Nathaniel went still. "Did Lena send this?" he asked. "No, I think it was Beatrice. I saw letters addressed to Lena in her room weeks ago." His expression changed. He stood, moved closer. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I let the past blind me to what's in front of me." Evelyn met his eyes, pain and tenderness interwoven. "Forgiveness is easy, but trust doesn't grow back overnight." "Then let me start from the beginning," Nathaniel said, voice trembling. "Not as your employer, but as a man who loves you truly." The next morning, before the sun fully rose, Nathaniel walked straight to the staff quarters. He found Beatrice in the storage room checking inventory, her face calm as if nothing had happened. "We need to talk," he said, voice low but firm. Beatrice looked up, showing no surprise. "I only did what was necessary, Mr. Walker. I was protecting your reputation from a girl who came from nowhere." "No," he replied, "you betrayed my trust, and sending anonymous letters filled with lies is cowardice." Beatrice pressed her lips. "She's changed you. I don't recognize you anymore." "Good," he said, "because the man you knew let people like you pull his strings for far too long." He ordered her to leave the estate immediately. Beatrice walked out without apology, but her final glance at Evelyn was filled with resentment, as if Evelyn had stolen something she once took pride in controlling. As for Lena, Nathaniel didn't throw her out. Instead, he invited her to the library one last time. "You used our daughter as a reason to return," he said, not angry, just tired. "And instead of earning back respect, you chose to tear others down." Lena didn't deny it. "You love her, don't you?" she asked, eyes flickering with a strange kind of pain. "For the first time in my life," he said softly, "I know what love actually is." She was silent for a long time before whispering, "Take care of Juliana." The next day, Lena left. No tears, no drama, but Evelyn knew. Every old door had now closed. And perhaps that was the gentlest way to end a chapter of hurt. 3 weeks later, Agave Farms buzzed with gentle excitement as it prepared for a small spring concert, an intimate gathering of close friends, family, and a few distinguished guests from the arts community. Evelyn stood behind the curtain, fingers lightly touching the piano keys. But this time, there was no fear, only a trembling thrill, the kind that comes with stepping into your own dream. Nathaniel approached, dressed in a deep navy suit. He placed a hand on her back. "You ready?" She nodded, smiling. After the first piece ended, the stage lights dimmed. Nathaniel stepped onto the stage, holding a small velvet box. "Not long ago," he began, his voice steady, "a girl walked into my home with broken shoes and eyes that carried the sky. She didn't just bring music to this place. She woke up my heart." Evelyn covered her mouth, tears shining. He knelt down, opening the box. Inside were a pair of glass slippers and a delicate ring. "And Evelyn Reyes, will you walk into the rest of my life on your own strong feet?" The room fell silent, and then applause erupted, echoing like a warm wind through the desert. Evelyn nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I walked into your heart a long time ago." And as she slipped her feet into those new shoes, applause thundered again, but this time, she barely heard it. In that moment, nothing existed but the warmth of his hands, the weight of the ring, and the music rising in her chest like sunlight. She was no longer the girl with broken shoes. She was a woman chosen, cherished, and finally, home. They were married on a late autumn afternoon in the small garden behind the ranch, where agave blossoms opened under soft golden light. There was no extravagance, no gold-stitched gowns or celebrity guests, just those who truly loved them, gentle music, and blessings spoken from the heart. Juliana, in a tiny white dress and with her father's blue eyes, carried the rings. Before walking out with Evelyn, she whispered, "Can I call you Mom?" Evelyn hugged her tightly, her heart melting with joy. "Of course you can, sweetheart." Not long after, Evelyn's mother, Teresa, was brought from Tucson to live with them. A small wooden cottage behind the ranch house was restored, surrounded by lavender and soft light, so Evelyn could care for her more easily. Each morning, Teresa sat on the porch, listening to the distant sound of her daughter's piano drifting through the air. Time passed, and twin daughters were born, Lily and Aria, with brown eyes and curls like Evelyn's, but smiles that carried Nathaniel's quiet joy. A house once filled with silence, now overflowed with laughter, children's music, and new life. One morning, Evelyn received an old envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten apology from Beatrice. "I was wrong, and I lost everything to my pride. If I could turn back time, I'd choose silence over cruelty." Evelyn folded the letter and looked out the window, where her children were chasing each other under the morning sun. She didn't cry. She didn't feel anger. She chose forgiveness. Because she knew, loving is not weakness, it's courage, the kind that chooses peace over pride and healing over hate, every single day.